Hey there, Perennial Pride listeners. Thanks for joining me on this episode. This is going to be a little bit different. Typically we've had some guests on and I've just shared some basic topics and gone into some depth in certain areas. But today is really going to be a four-parter and something that is near and dear to my heart here. Sometimes I think about it, it's a little insane for me. I finished my first book and I never set out to write this book. It just kind of happened. And it's something that I'm really excited about and want to share with more people to hopefully will benefit them. And it's a book that's certainly there's some financial aspects to it, but it's even broader than that. Things that have helped me throughout my life. And so we're going to do this in four parts. The book that I wrote kind of is set up that way. So we'll do an episode on each one and I'll go into a little bit depth on the things that really stood out to me and really hopefully will give you a sense of what's there and the value that it could bring you. And a lot of it's weird because I started this book more for my own personal benefit to write things down I've gained over time that have helped me to improve my life and my wealth. And I want it to be something I could share to my kids and certainly generations that come, my own family. And I just started writing a lot of stuff down of things that really have impacted me and helped me sort of shape the direction of my life and really help evolve kind of me as a human and as a person on this earth, and positioned also to say how does it translate in my financial life. When we think about wealth and usually it is directed more towards our dollars, our bank accounts, our investments. But really, when I think about wealth as I've evolved in even my own thinking is a slightly different direction and definition is having abundance in anything in life, right? I'm wealthy in my health, wealthy in my relationships and certainly our financial lives. So I really want to use this vehicle to describe and articulate the things that have really helped me along the way. And it's something that I hope will benefit you or others in your world. And, it's interesting as I've reflected on my journey to getting to the financial world, prior to that, I felt like I was probably just chasing money and wealth and, things that are externally sort of driving me and influencing me. And, through the course of my sort of maturation and just coming to my own realization of what's important to me in my life. Now, a lot of it is really driven internally, and it's really, what drives me to have satisfaction and enjoyment and happiness in life, and try not to cloud my judgment by things that are externally focused. And a lot of what I share in this book is really a reflection of that. And I'm really anxious to share with others, and hopefully people will benefit. And so today's episode is really going to be centered around the first, I guess, chapter or key steps in the book. And a lot of the book is really going to be designed with tools and ideas that really could help you broadly in your life. But then there'll be sections of it that are really geared towards your financial life, like things that could be parallel. And a lot of this relates to my just personal values. So if we think about our lives, we can be so time starved. And so this is hopefully a way to help maximize your resources mentally, financially, so that you can essentially live your best life. So let's step back and start with, I would consider part one of this. And this is really key, I think, in a lot of ways, because it sort of sets the tone for the rest of the book. And really, at the heart of it, it's around owning, I call it owning our own response or owning your response and being accountable. You hear this often enough in our lives. We really can't be beholden to others, right? To control things. And it really doesn't really work because then we're going to be playing by their rules and their priorities and we're just kind of following. And it may not be enough to fulfill us and give us a sense of direction and control and freedom in our lives. And so this really has a lot of various facets, but at its core, a lot of it as it relates to our sort of just general life is time for us to reflect, right? Sometimes we get so busy in life just doing. Sometimes we have to step back and reflect on things. How are things going in our lives? And being realistic and objective about it. There's a quote that I always thought was interesting. It says, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And this is it's something that was in Alice in Wonderland story, and sometimes could feel like that. So we sometimes have to stop just for a moment to reflect. And one of the tools that I've stumbled across, and this is nothing sort of magical, but it sometimes takes some effort and reflection and time to stop for a moment and say, okay, in the various areas in our lives, whether it be your business, financial, physical, mental, your family, spiritual, lifestyle, different areas of your life. And, there could be others and they could be worded differently, but, having those core areas of our lives, they can pull us in different directions and we can focus on them differently. And so this is a time to just sit back and say, okay, if I were to just assess kind of where am I in my physical being, right? In my health or my relationships with my family and friends, or certainly our business or work or financial life, how would you rate them, right? In a score of something basic of 1 to 10 and say, where would you want to be and where are you, right? Something very basic and being honest with yourself. I mean, because it is hard to have that balanced life. And some people don't believe that's actually true. You can have it. And in some cases, I would agree with them that it's hard in all aspects of our lives to have balance. But I do believe there are ways that we can increase the balance in our lives to things that matter most to us. And it starts with being honest and assessing kind of where we are on that. And then when you were able to sort of score yourself and evaluate, say, hey, where am I really doing really well based on what I want? And then being honest where I'm not. Maybe it's not as strong as I would like, and not being hard on ourselves because I'm sure most people are doing the best they can with what they know or have. But then asking ourselves in those areas that maybe are not at the level we want them, this is a who do we want to become in those areas, whether it be in our family relationships or our business? And what do I want to achieve and being realistic about them? And what things should I stop doing and what things should I start doing? And those are just sometimes the solutions will come out of those really difficult questions to really ask ourselves and reflect on it and really spend some time jotting things down and really focusing on them, planning it out. And I would suggest in these sort of areas, and it's helped me quite a bit over time, is to you have all these different areas of life. What are those top three big areas? If we reflect on an annual sort of setting and thinking about what you want to achieve in a given year only, right? How can you maybe really focus on a few? Because we can't do it all. It's just our time isn't, we don't have all the time in the world. And sometimes we focus on way too many things or multitasking. We can't really focus as heavily on the things that matter. And so I would certainly encourage focusing on big three areas of life that you really want to move the needle and improve that score, whatever that is, from score from 1 to 10. And really dedicate some time, energy, and planning to what you could do to improve that and track it. And there are plenty of tools within the book that help people do that and to track it and sort of evaluate, are you doing the things you want to do and planned out and are reaching those goals that you're setting yourselves up for the year. And so that's really one big area of focus around, taking responsibility and accountability of the direction of our lives. And it may not be a fun exercise, but it hopefully will be lightning to see kind of really where you are. Now you transition obviously to our financial lives. This is a similar sort of situation. Maybe, you reflect just generally around your financial life and you say, well, what does that look like for me? And how far am I away from what I would consider ideal? And a lot of it requires us to take that self-assessment and be honest. And there's one tool that I use with folks to help sort of evaluate the different areas of our financial lives. And When we think about our financial lives, and we have episodes on this too around our parallel paths in our lives of protection, protecting from things that we cannot control, and then wealth building, right? Capital appreciation. So, they go hand in hand and they certainly can impact each other quite a bit. But there are five core big areas that you want to maybe evaluate to kind of get a sense of your situation today and how strong or weak you are in certain areas. And they're fairly simple. So we take the first one is protections. Protections from anything from your assets to protect your life, your health, estate planning, those sorts of things, right? That's a protection arm. And even in the second part of, which is part of that kind of protective arm or defense, is the savings, like saving how much you have in savings and reserves and where are they located. And then a third area to evaluate is growth. Like, where are your dollars invested and how confident are you in them? And in terms of balancing risk and control, and there are areas that we can explore to see if there are ways to increase that control and hopefully mitigate risk. But evaluating that investment pool, do you feel good about where you're investing? And then two other areas that kind of are surrounding your wealth building is debt, your management of debt, and whether it's good debt or bad debt, and how is that helping you to grow your wealth? And then lastly, which is ultimately how we live our lives, is cash flow, income coming in and use, and what we're doing to manage our cash flow today to ensure that we're still saving. And then how are we creating additional cash flow in our lives today and in the future? I mean, that's ultimately why we're building wealth anyway, is to generate more cash flow for us to be able to utilize for things that matter. And so understanding how that's working today is so critical. And so this is another tool to help evaluate again where you are, and you may need help with that, right? For an advisor, or you can do that on your own just to sort of assess where you are in those different areas, and hopefully identify potential targets you want to pursue to improve. And so from a protections arm, you want to ideally have maximum protections, right, against your assets, your income, your life, right? That's ideal, right? So then that anything bad that were to happen in all those areas is not going to dramatically impact your wealth building ability into the future. As a instance, savings, ideally is it's really having, some level of reserves, right? Whether that's 3, 6 months, and some people it's more, and continue to save constantly. Right? We need to continue to save through most of our lives and just getting into that habit. And certainly growth is really about maximizing your investments and balancing that risk and control and reward sort of, of a scenario, because we cannot have all our money in massively risky investments that we don't own or control. But we also can't put them in the safest spots that they don't do anything for us. So we do have to evaluate that and see if our dollars are growing in a way that's suitable for us and our investment philosophy. And debt, and this is where we need to ensure that we're efficiently using debt, and that we can turn bad debt into no debt or good debt, right? And how can that help us build our wealth? And then cash flow, just really getting a better understanding what's coming in and out, and what are ways to increase cash flow today, whether through our jobs or through our investments, to help us serve our lives so we have more and more options to choose how we live our lives. And so that's really important to kind of have a good lens of what that looks like. There's plenty of folks that can help you with that if it's something you can't do alone. And then splitting up those areas into thinking about not only short-term goals, what's happening, maybe you're looking back home, or secondary ones like maybe saving for college, things like that for your kids. And then long-term goals of, what you want your life to look like, right? In terms of if you're in a job, to how long you must stay there. And what are things that you want to do in life that maybe you aren't doing today, thinking long-term, whether it's starting a business or investing in real estate, whatever the case is, and having that long-term lens of how you want your life to look like, and how can the wealth support it, right? And so these are all just areas that help you think through and plan. And, this is the challenge I think a lot of folks have, that they're doing well in their jobs or their lives, but they probably don't have a real set plan of what they're doing with their financial lives. And so hopefully it might work out towards here, but I think for most people, it's becomes a precarious situation, and creates a lot of uncertainty because that plan is not really clear. And so this is an opportunity to get that plan in order and really understand if the wealth you're building and your financial life is really helping support you live your best life, and a life under your terms. So that's all I want to share in this episode. And I know this is just a starting point to build your wealth and build wealth in your life. And I would encourage you, if you want to learn more about this, really reach out. I'll put a link to be able to access this book, Wealth Beyond the Numbers. You can go access it on my website and order that for yourself. I think you'll find it hugely beneficial. There's a lot more tools and resources in there to help evaluate these areas of your life, and really just back to this first step is taking ownership. It all requires us all to take ownership of our own lives. It's a imperative sort of responsibility to do that. If we want to have, well, you know if we want to have in our lives the things that give us most enjoyment and fulfillment and an impact to the world at large, and certainly our families. And it starts with us, and we got to take it as an internal drive. And you being on this episode and listening to it is already indicative that that's probably true for you. So I certainly encourage you to continue to step forward and continue to research and find out what's best for you and your family and your future. Take care, and we'll be back on the second episode of this, where we'll go through the key area number 2 that really helps you build that wealth for your life, and help you fulfill the life you really want. Take care. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for joining me on this episode today. I really am grateful for you as listeners to the Perennial Pride podcast. I hope you're getting some tremendous value out of it, and hopefully pushing you along your journey to financial freedom. I put this podcast together really to help you get more educated around your finances so that you feel empowered to live the life that you really want. And if you like the content that you heard today or watched, then I would encourage you to go to my website, perennialpride.com. There's tons of other content there. And you can access my book, Wealth Beyond the Numbers. You can buy it there on my website. It's a aggregation of a lot of great tips and tools I've learned to not only build my wealth in my accounts, but build wealth in my life, and abundance and joy, and something that has a lot of my experiences in the journey that I've been on personally. Hopefully that can be also of value to you as you sort of move forward. So thanks again for being a Perennial Pride listener, and we'll see you on the next episode.